On the trains, firstly, South Western Railway services are running between Woking and Surbiton. That's after a signal failure. And South Eastern services are suspended between Gillingham and Faversham and also between Gillingham and Rainham.
This is LBC.
Someone on your street.
Nick Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973. LBC.
It's easy.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
9 minutes before 8 is the time. Let's come to some of your reactions on the texts, the tweets, and the emails as well concerning this idea that in some instances it is possible your children will not be returning to school until after the Easter holidays. I know this comes as a bit of a bombshell to you. I think you probably all accepted. Excuse me. I think you probably all accepted that it's not going to happen this side of the half term. This is what you're saying, Vicky. Teaching staff must be vaccinated. They're currently working with key workers' children, which means their parents are working with the public every day. Many of their parents are NHS workers, which means it's more likely they've been in contact with COVID. Same for police officers. It's bizarre and needs to be addressed. Ian says, school is closed to my child. Education should not be by a parent's profession. Let's value the next generation. Same approach here from Sean Hughes. The approach where some children receive an education and some don't, how can that be right? Christopher says there are more inconsistencies, more U-turns and more mixed messages, and now more death. Leave the schools closed for a bit longer. Well, you don't say whether or not, of course, you're a parent, whether you have a child or children. I hear what you say, but even if you're not at work, even if you're working from home, the impact and the necessity of educating your child, you have to allow for the fact that it is huge and takes up a lot of time. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be done, but we have to look at that as well. Same subject. This comes in from Nick Tremaine. School children, it was once said, were more likely to get hit by a bus than to catch COVID. One school I know has had over 40 pupils, and there wasn't a single bus in sight. This comes from Graham. If they're so safe, why not open up in all regions at the same time? Of course they're not safe. Well, I think you have to allow for this, don't you? For the fact that they are different infection rates. I mean, interestingly enough, London now, which had been effectively sort of week or so ago, and I'll choose my words carefully, but it almost descended to plague-like status. It would appear now, because the people in and around London have had the most severe strain, it is now emerging quite quickly. So it could be that schools in London and the South East are open far quicker than they do elsewhere in the country, 6 minutes before 8 the time. Let's talk about that and other aspects of the fight against COVID and, of course, masks. James in Birmingham, that's what you want to speak about, James, I understand. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, sir, what do you want to tell me?
It's getting a bit confusing, like, with this wearing a mask and blah, blah, blah. Well, I'd like to know, is it law or is it not law? I mean, if it's law, you'd be arrested, you've got the chance to go to court and fight it. At the moment, you've got, people from councils going around fining you. You don't know where you are.
What? Sorry, what is it?
You've got the right to go to court and ask the judge, what danger am I imposing on somebody?
Hold on.
I'm a healthy man. I haven't got any illnesses. I'm going to the shop to get my food. There's nothing wrong with me. Why am I being arrested?
Because COVID regulations state that unless
is it a regulation or is it a law? That's what I'm trying to find out.
No, it is a law unless you are exempted. And I hear what you're saying, that you're fit and healthy, but the problem with COVID is that it's such an insidious virus, James, and I'm pleased to hear you're fit and well, and long may it continue, sir. But for the protection of others, unless you're exempted, so let there be no doubt, you must wear your mask or face covering. If you're exercising, of course, as we know, if you're jogging or something like that, it's not necessary. But to your description, I'm just going down to the shops. That's precisely where they do want you to wear one. James, thank you for that. I must go because I can benefit of having the Home Secretary join me on the line now, 5 minutes before 8. And if you recall when we had Dame Cressida Dick on yesterday, perhaps some of the most powerful matters and facts she shared with us as the fight against drugs and the fact that the so-called county lines have been disrupted between London to Bridgewater to Wales to Newport to Liverpool to Birmingham. And pre-teens, in some instances, pre-teens were being involved by these vile drug dealers. Clearly the government's been listening. They found £148 million to cut crime, some of which is drug-related crime. Here with more details, Home Secretary Priti Patel. What is it you're announcing today, Home Secretary? Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I think I've been on your programme before speaking about our pledge to tackle drug crime and to effectively, as I describe it, cut the head of the snake when it comes to county line drug gangs and tackle drug supply. So in the last year, we've had a massive operation with funding that has seen over 3,000 people arrested, hundreds and hundreds of lines closed, but also over 700 young people, vulnerable people being protected. Now, the money and the package today is £148 million, and that is very much to tackle county line drug gangs, but actually to look at this from an end-to-end perspective. So I can do, and I will continue, obviously, from a law enforcement perspective, working with the cops to keep on going out there and tackling these lines. But at the same time, we have to recognise that we have problems around drug treatment services and drug reoffending. So part of this money, £80 million, is going into drug treatment services, looking at addiction, looking at how we can help people, turn people's lives around. And this £80 million is the largest increase in drug treatment for over 15 years. We haven't done enough on this issue. Both Matt Hancock and I have been very vocal in government about this issue. We want to help people. We need to turn people's lives around. This is part of our levelling up agenda. There are parts of the country that have been blighted, absolutely blighted by drugs and drug addiction. And this is part of that programme to absolutely start turning lives around while dealing with drug supply.
And for that to happen, of course, we need to have the police officers out there. And we heard that there is a request for the officers to be moved up the ranks, if you will, for vaccinations. What has the Commissioner of the Met said to you about that, Home Secretary, and what is being done?
There's a lot of work that's taking place. Nick, you'll know my passion for our police officers, and it's not just police officers, it's fire officers as well. They're all on the front line enforcing coronavirus regulations. I have been clear with policing as well. So first of all, as you know, we have the Joint Committee on Vaccines and Immunisation that are working with us on making sure that we can push policing, fire, frontline teachers, others, when it comes to getting the vaccine. I've also been very clear to the NPCC, so National Police Chief Council, as well as the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, that they themselves should start getting their plans ready so that when we can get the green light on vaccine rollout, they prioritise their frontline officers, frontline staff, to go for the vaccine programme, because this is a massive logistical task, as we know. So I've asked them to get ready because I am working with Matt Hancock. Matt is supporting me 100% on this commission.
What's stopping it then, Home Secretary? If you want it and the Secretary of State and the Health Secretary wants it, why have we not got police officers, firefighters and others in the same level as ours at 75 and above?
Well, primarily because we have a vaccine delivery plan, which was published last week to focus on those that are susceptible to dying from COVID, first of all, which is the over 80s. And they have been and they are the priority group. But within that plan, of course, the next wave will be the frontline workers that we're speaking about. And Matt Hancock, Nadeem Zahawi, who's been leading the vaccine task force, we've been very clear about that.
So they have been promoted up the phases, Home Secretary. They will be.
We are absolutely working. We are working to achieve that. And alongside that, I've been saying to policing partners in particular, get ready, because I can't just say, you're going to be prioritised and we're not ready. Because
No, I appreciate that. So you want it and Mr Hancock wants it, Nadeem Zahawi. Yeah. Who's stopping you? Just say that.
We're working with the JCVI, which is the Joint Committee for Vaccines and Immunisations. Yeah, they are the ones that are determining this. It's not for politicians.
So are they the ones that are holding you back, then, lastly, on this, Home Secretary?
They are not holding us back. They are overseeing the vaccine rollout. And vaccine rollout is complicated for a range of reasons, not just in terms of logistics, but the prioritisation of members of the public, the British people or public, that would die, first of all, if they do not get access to the vaccine. This is all about saving lives and protecting the NHS as well, don't forget. So, there's a lot of work taking place within government with JCVI in terms of how we prioritise vaccine delivery.
Home Secretary, you talk about it, and I don't doubt that you're working hard on that, but sadly, as you will be aware, in the United Kingdom, we had the highest level of deaths so far in the pandemic, 1,610 yesterday, and deaths per million of population. The United Kingdom is the second worst on the planet. Why should my listeners have confidence in your government being able to deliver anything?
Well, look, I think, first of all, we have to put all of this in the context of a global pandemic.
Well, I just have, respectfully, Priti Patel.
No.
United Kingdom is second worst on the planet.
And let's be quite clear, every single death is deeply tragic.
Indeed.
Families across the UK have lost loved ones, and this virus has affected the lives of every single person.
Indeed.
Now, there are a range of reasons. I think, look, there's no one factor as to why we have such a horrendous and tragic death rate. There will be a range of reasons. Patients with comorbidities. We know the elderly and certain ethnic groups are more susceptible,
but
more
they
prone
would be
to
the same in
contracting
France and Germany and across other parts of the world, and they're not, sadly, they are not succumbing at the same rate as United Kingdom citizens, Home Secretary.
Well, we don't know that for a start.
We do. I've got the chart in front of me.
Well, the way in which death rates are, data is put together and published is different across the world. We're not using the same data metrics for death hospitalizations as other countries. So I would actually suggest it's not actually like it's not comparable.
Right.
The fact of the matter is we're in a dreadful, dreadful pandemic. No one will dispute this. All these deaths are deeply tragic. We've got a long way to go yet. I say this, I know people may not like this message. We're taking away people's freedoms. We're in a lockdown. But the fact of the matter is we want to protect lives, and by doing that, we're asking people to stay at home and also respect and protect the NHS, because there are people in the NHS doing heroic work right now trying to save lives while rolling out the vaccine at the same time.
A couple of last things. We understand the Department for Education will announce a pause of mass testing today at schools, just 5 weeks after your colleague Gavin Williamson said this was a milestone moment. This is another U-turn by a government that has the second highest rate of deaths in the whole of the world, isn't it, Home Secretary?
Well, I'm not sure about the details around stopping mass testing for schools, because schools have had the testing kits and testing has been taking place. The priority right now is obviously vaccination. As I've said, schools are closed and there is homeschooling. So I think on that basis...
Well, schools aren't closed, Home Secretary. Schools are open to children of key workers.
I was just about to come on to this. Clearly, there will still be testing taking place around schools where children, pupils and workers are still in schools, because that's part of the protective layers of health measures that we have. But I can't talk to you right now, Nick. I don't know the full details as to...
One thing you do know, lastly, Home Secretary, America awakes to a new dawn today with a new president. How will relations, do you imagine, be between the United Kingdom and the United States? How do you imagine our Boris Johnson will get on with their Joe Biden? Priti Patel?
I think the relationship will be stronger than ever. Our relationship will go from strength to strength. We as two big democracies, big on democratic values, leaders in global institutions, will continue to work to confront many, many of the challenges that we face internationally. And our Prime Minister has already been in touch with the President-elect. And, we're clear that we look forward to building upon the very special relationship that our two countries have.
Grateful for your time. Thank you for ringing in. I understand we had some problems getting, so I appreciate the effort of you calling into the show. Priti Patel, Home Secretary, appearing here on LBC, where it's 4 minutes after 8 and news is next.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.